In animation, you'll soon find yourself needing to review all that work you put into your scene. This might be for yourself or to send off to a peer for feedback, and trust me, you'll be doing this quite often. There are two ways to output your video for what you see in Blender. One way is through a viewport render, which, as the name suggests, outputs what you see in the Blender viewport. This is also known as an OpenGL render or a play blast in some software. The other way is through a full render, which uses the scene's cameras, lights, and materials you set up. However, a full render can take hours to complete, and it doesn't make much sense to waste all that time when, after taking a fresh look or getting feedback, you'll be changing or tweaking things around anyway. This is why the viewport render is so great. It's quick and efficient. To render the viewport, go to the View menu at the top of the 3D viewport over here. Near the bottom, you'll see three options. Viewport Render Image renders out a single frame from where the playhead was set to. The next option down, Viewport Render Animation, renders the entire animation from start frame to end frame. And the final option, Viewport Render Keyframes, renders only the keyframes from the selected object. Usually though, you'll choose the second option, which renders the animation using current settings in our output properties. If you want to do a real render, that is in the render menu up here. You have the option for rendering the single frame, which you can use hotkey F12, or rendering the entire animation, which is Control F12 on the keyboard. This renders from the scene's active camera, and if there's no camera in the scene, it will error out and ask you to add one. This way also uses your current settings in the output properties. So let's take a look at those properties and what's available to us. In the Output tab here, which looks like a little printer, these are the output properties. At the top, you'll see the dimensions where you can change the resolution. You notice that the camera size changes with these resolution settings because the camera is linked to the output settings. You don't need to manually adjust the camera size, it's automatically set based off the output resolution. The X resolution represents the width, and the Y resolution represents the height. You can set these to any value you want, or you can choose from the preset list available from clicking here. We have access to a lot of common aspect ratios. I'll select the 1080p option here to set it back to the default 1920 by 1080. Below that is the resolution scale. So if we select 50%, it will render at half the resolution you set, which is pretty useful for a quick test render. When you're ready for the final render, you can set it back to 100% or even 200% for a higher resolution that you can scale down in post-production for better quality. This higher setting is more common for single frames rather than the entire animation, but it's an option for you nonetheless. Below that, we'll find the frame rate and the frame range options that we went over previously in another video. Now let's skip down to the Output tab and see the options that we have here. This is where you save your file. By default, Blender starts with a temporary folder on your computer. By clicking the folder to the right here, you can browse to where you want your render files to be stored. Another cool option is to create a double slash here, which serves as a shortcut to save your work in the same directory as your blend file. If we add a name after that, followed by another slash, it will place your render files in a folder by that name. If the folder doesn't exist, Blender will create it for you. And down here, we can change the file format for your output. The two columns on the left are image formats, and the lonely single format on the right here is the video format. The default setting in Blender is PNG, an image format. When you choose an image format, Blender creates an image sequence. This creates one image per frame from the start to the end frame, and it saves it out in that specific location. By default, Blender will name these image files by the frame number it's rendered at, and with video files, it names it by the range of frames it rendered to. To be a bit more organized, I find it quicker to type directly in the box here with a name followed by an underscore for images. This way the frame number will come after the underscore, and you'll have an idea of what the image sequence is about. Then for video files, I'll add a name followed by the file type I'm saving out as. For video formats, I'll choose the most common and useful one, If the extension matches our settings, Blender won't append any frame numbers on it. This will be the actual name that Blender will output the video to. With video formats, we have additional settings. Down here, we can select the container type, for example, MP4 or Matroska. The default is Matroska, but if I want an MP4, I can select that in the drop-down here. We also have video and audio codec settings. The video codec is set to H.264. It's a pretty good option to use, and if you don't want to adjust all these settings manually, there are presets available. I often use the H.264 MP4 setting. Now there's no audio in this animation, but if we had sound in the video sequence editor, I would choose AAC or MP3. For now, let's just leave this at no audio. Under the metadata settings, you can add extra information to your video file. While it doesn't make sense to do this for your final render, as it adds a text overlay to your image, it's very useful for your works in progress previews. For example, let's add the frame number. This is very helpful for when you're trying to get feedback from others. They can use this frame marker as a way to communicate about specific areas of your animation. So we'll just make sure frame is checked while the others are unchecked. Then we'll turn on burn into image. And when we do a viewport render or a final render, the frame number will appear on the video. You can adjust settings like text size, text color, and background transparency, and then you'll see those changes when you render again. There are also many other options available. For instance, you can output the time code or other metadata into your video. These options are located below. Just remember to enable burn into image to apply these settings to your render. Finally, we have the post-processing section. Here we can instruct Blender to use the compositor or the data in the video sequence editor. By default, both options are enabled. However, if there's no data in the compositor or the video sequence editor, they will be skipped during rendering. We'll explore the video sequencer editor later on, but compositing is beyond the scope of this video. For more on compositing, check out the courses in CG Cookie's Core Fundamental series. If you want to change Blender's behavior during rendering, you can adjust the preferences. Go to Edit, Preferences, and then Interface. Under the Editors section, you'll find options for how Blender handles renderings. You can create a new window for the render, switch the current viewport to an image editor, or go full screen. Once your animation is rendered, either as a viewport render or a final render, you can view it in the render menu. To view a single rendered image, use the shortcut F11. To watch the animation, you can use Ctrl F11, which will open the animation in a new window.